on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Happy Monday. I am Laurence Fox and I'm keeping Nigel's seat warm for yet another week. Lucky you. Good evening. Coming up tonight on Farage with Fox. Is there any merit in having a whole month dedicated to Black history? Or should Black history, like any other history, be weaved into the school curriculum as part of a balanced and well-rounded education? Don't get me started on the other 3 months dedicated to the rainbow people. Also on the programme, we'll cross live to the Tory conference in Birmingham and speak to one MP who was the subject of abuse from the Be Kind Brigade on his way into the meeting. And on Talking Pints, I'll be joined by Connor Tierney, quantity surveyor by day and bare knuckle boxer by night. First though, the news with Polly Middlehurst. Hi Polly.
Laurence, thank you. Good evening to you. And the news this hour, the Chancellor has acknowledged it's been a tough day for him, just hours after he announced a U-turn on tax cuts for top tax bracket earners. Addressing the Conservative Party conference, Kwasi Kwarteng said it was now time to get Britain moving, promising there'd be no more distractions. Before his speech, he confirmed he's scrapping the 45 pence income tax rate for people earning more than £150,000. He also told party members, rather than bashing business, the government's backing it.
More jobs, higher pay, more money for public services. Because we cannot have a strong NHS without a strong economy. We can't have good schools without a strong economy. We cannot fund our armed forces without a strong economy. So growing our economy should be our central and guiding mission.
But posting on social media, Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves said the speech showed the government is out of touch with an appalling record on growth. And talking about the tax cut, she said the U-turn had come too late.
It was obvious they weren't going to get this through the House of Commons. They were forced into this screeching U-turn. But so much damage has already been done with higher government borrowing costs and huge worries for people about how they're going to afford their mortgages.
Well, away from politics, a 34-year-old man has been remanded in custody after being charged with the murder of Olivia Pratt-Corbell. Thomas Cashman appeared at Liverpool Crown Court accused of fatally shooting the 9-year-old girl inside her own home in August. He's also charged with the attempted murder of Olivia's mother as well, and 2 counts of possessing a firearm with intent to endanger life. Ofgem is warning the UK faces a significant risk of gas shortages this winter as a result of Russian disruption to supplies in Europe and the war in Ukraine. The energy regulator said Britain is in a good position with few direct imports of gas from Russia, but needs to be prepared for all scenarios this winter. Ofgem said it's putting its sensible contingency measures into place. Now, the King has offered his warmest congratulations to residents in Scotland's newest city in his first public engagement as monarch. The King and Queen Consort have been welcomed by crowds in Dunfermline to mark the former town gaining city status. It's one of 8 places that have won city status as part of Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. The King said there'd be no more fitting way to mark his late mother's extraordinary life of service.
That would, I know, gladden my dear mother's heart, as it certainly gladdens mine. And as you celebrate your well-deserved status as Scotland's new city, I can only offer my warmest congratulations and my heartfelt wishes for the years to come.
Majesty the King. You're up to date on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. You're with GB News, the People's Channel, where now it's time for Farage, but with Fox.
After the sad loss of Queen Elizabeth II, who served this great kingdom so selflessly for 70 years, appointing her 15th and final Prime Minister just days before her passing, the nation came to halt for a full 10 days of mourning, capped off by a funeral so majestic only the British could pull it off. 10 days of focused remembrance and gratitude for 70 years of smiling, listening, and selling Britain to the world. It was a momentous event, and now, as with the loss of any loved one still fresh and our emotions still high, we must, slowly, get back to the business of ordinary, dreary daily life. Because life does indeed go on. It has to. Seasons come and go regardless. Progress depends upon it. We cannot become consumed in pain. As C.S. Lewis wrote, thought is never static, pain often is. And so new ideas and new shoots of thought must push us forward and away from the stasis of pain. Which brings me on to Black History Month. Whilst our longest-serving monarch only got 10 days, in classrooms across the country from this morning, our children will be subjected to a constant month-long barrage of guilt and recrimination over the evils meted out upon our black brothers and sisters, systemically oppressed over many years, and don't you ever forget it, despite the huge and tangible progress we've all made in our collective drive for genuine equality. Teachers without specialism in the field of so-called black history, or too lazy to educate themselves on the topic, will click open Google, type in the search terms, and be flooded with a whole load of sponsored resources to better their white privileged students' brains. Mostly divisive, exclusionary, and not at all diverse. Surprise, surprise. All focusing the crosshairs of our children's thoughts on the stasis of present guilt and the stasis of past pain. And that's just 1 month. Don't get me started on the fully quarter of a year devoted solely to the LGBTQ+, full stop crew. Naturally, I have no issue with the teaching of history, even the teaching of black history per se. Kids should learn the broadest range of historical topics as part of a balanced and well-rounded curriculum. But another year of poems about George Floyd, really? More kneeling coppers, more pictures of progressives, like Justin Trudeau in his blackface phase? Or with scant mention of William Wilberforce, leader of the movement to abolish the slave trade, and the 1,500 British sailors who gave their lives to end slavery 30 years and more before our friends across the pond got the message. Is it really necessary? Can we not just teach history? Or how about this for an idea? If we are to proceed down this painful intersectional identitarian path, where the only value we see in each other is in the colour of someone's skin or who they happen to wish to share their bed with, how about we make September British History Month in honour of Her late Majesty? How wonderful would it be to see the most holy flag of pride set place for just 1 little month and witness our streets instead awash with a sea of red, white and blue, where Brits of all shapes and sizes, colours and hues can come together and celebrate the great things that our forebears achieved, rather than stand on their silent graves and snipe at how imperfect they were, granting them no right to reply. You know what? I wouldn't want that either. Because I don't believe months should be the property of whichever noisy lobby group is the de rigueur this week. I have no interest in LGBTQ History Month, Pride Month, Black History Month, Trans Awareness Month, or even Gay Uncle Day, but I do kind of like Gay Uncle Day. And neither did the overwhelming majority of my gay and black friends. There is only one future worth fighting for, and that is a shared one. In a society fractured down such deepening lines of intersected grievance, it is the things we have in common which will draw us, all of us, closer together into new and more optimistic times and thinking, rather than to focus entire months to the commemoration of the stasis of pain. Thought is never static. Pain often is. So, I'm asking you tonight, should we abandon Awareness Month altogether and just be aware? Get in touch at farage.gbnews.uk or tweet using the hashtag Farage on GB News. I'm still terrible at that, I do apologise. Right, so joining me now to debate the importance of Black History Month is leader of the Heritage Party, David Curtin, and Sophia Strachan, CEO of young persons charity Just As You Are, and an expert on young black men and culture specialist. David, if I can come to you first, is there any benefit in Black History Month to you?
I don't think so. It's a relatively new thing. I mean, I was a teacher for about 20 years before I got actively involved in politics, and we never had it then. And everyone was happy. Nobody sort of really noticed there was any deficiency in the education, the history education. But then you have these subjects like PSHE and citizenship, which are relatively new subjects, and they get added to, and the government puts more and more things on with social dimensions and so on. All of the kind of things which you talked about there, intersectionality, the Black History Month, the LGBTQ History Month and Pride Appreciation Day and all this, they sort of get put into this subject, and it's almost like indoctrination into some kind of critical race theory, critical gender theory, sort of, you know, beast that is being put into children, and they get all kinds of terrible guilt from it. You know, the point about Black History Month is, it seems to me, it's not so much celebrating, you know, good black people. I mean, Clarence Thomas, for example, Supreme Court judge, Candace Owens, and so on. If you talked about people like that, brilliant. But it seems to me
they're not politically black, though. They're racially black.
Okay.
In the intersectional world, you've got to be politically black and racially black. Sophia, is there a danger in speaking to young children?
Yeah.
About immutability? Do kids notice skin colour? Is it important that we raise all kids, if we want to be a genuinely progressive society, that you're equal and that you each have the opportunity of your life? We live in a meritocratic world. What would you say?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, I think super young children, I feel like they don't see colour. I feel like as they get older in teenage years and they're influenced from around them, their parents, who they hang out with, their families and stuff, they begin to see colour. They begin to copy what their parents and what their families do. Things that they see on TV is subconscious bias that just leads into what they think and stuff. So I think it is important to speak on positive black role models and things like that, and black history as a whole, like Black History Month. Sometimes I feel it's a tick boxing exercise.
When you say to speak on positive black role models, should that be anyone from any immutable skin colour characteristics? Should anyone be able to speak about positive black role models, or should that be only for black people to speak about, or white people to speak about, or who should speak about it? Because for me, the Martin Luther King line, I want my 4 young daughters to be judged on the content of their character rather than colour of their skin.
Yes.
We were there, and now we're going, no, we must talk about skin colour again. So, and I find it very, very painful, actually, in a lot of ways. I think it's divided society. What would you say to that?
It's like, it's pros and cons. We do need to address skin colour because racism does exist.
Direct racism, though, or systemic racism?
Bit of both.
Really?
Yeah.
So I would disagree with you. Sorry to give you a hard time.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're brave enough to come on. I would I would agree that direct racism exists, and we should all stand together whenever we see an example of it.
Yeah.
We should come together, all of us, whatever skin colour, and go down. But I don't believe, and I don't think any of the data supports a view that the United Kingdom certainly is a systemically racist country. Can I just ask David what he thinks about it? Because I have to be sort of equal in my understanding. David, would you say the United Kingdom is systemically racist?
No, I don't think so at all. Like you said, and it's a good phrase, there's direct racism. No, I've experienced direct racism when I was a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s, early 80s and so on. But I think with the Black History Month and so on, there's this narrative that the UK is systemically racist and therefore we have to fight white privilege, which is a new phrase that seems to have come into the lexicon over the last 10 years or so.
Sounds a bit racist to me.
Right, because, you know, there is direct racism not just from white people, but from black people, from, you know, other people of other races as well. And so we have to, you know, realise that it's not just a one-way street and, you know, take that into account. But it's very interesting what you said. Like, when kids are younger, then they don't see colour. They're colourblind, if you like. And when I first came to London, it was in the early 90s, and the 90s were a fantastic decade because, you know, it was after the fall of the Berlin Wall. It was before 9/11. Everyone seemed to be happy. There was a sort of air of like hope and prosperity, but everyone just took each other as a person. You know, you'd have people from all different races, white, black, brown, wherever, Jewish, Russian, and we'd all just get on together.
Yeah.
And I never saw, oh, that's a black person, that's a brown person. I just saw them by their names.
Fair, we are different generations, so in my old school generation, it's rude to ask a woman how old she is. But
I'm in my 30s.
I'm sensing we're coming from a different generation.
Yeah.
So talk to me. Tell me what you think is important about this, about Black History Month.
About Black History Month. It's important that young people of all races understand that black people, there's more than just slavery that happened with black people, because I feel like that's all that young people seem to understand of what about black history. And I feel like in schools, maybe what they just seem to do is like a tick box exercise, and let's just talk about black inventors and things like that. And I would disagree with you when you say that there isn't systemic racism in this country. Even me, myself, as a mixed race woman, has experienced that, let alone a black man. And I know it's something that maybe you may not understand, or maybe you, from wherever your background is, but I've experienced it, my children have experienced it, and it's very frustrating, but it irritates.
But you're successful. You're a businesswoman.
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm interested to just hear this. The experiences that your children have been through. What do you mean by that?
I feel like sometimes they get looked at a certain way because of how they look. For example,
Do you feel that they're looked at a certain way, or you have evidence that they're looked at a certain way?
Well, I feel that way. And it's hard to prove it. So someone just saying like the N-word at someone, that's obviously racist. But how someone treats someone based on the colour of their skin, which I can see that's clear that's happened. If my sons, who are black, are out with a group of their white friends, for example, we was in Thorpe Park yesterday and it was Fright Night, and the zombies were walking around and chasing people. Out of all of their friends, she chose to say, these lot were the ones that were being rude, not these lot. And she pointed at all the black boys in the group and not the white ones.
She?
The security.
Right, so you're...
But they were all doing the exact same thing. They were all mucking around, being boisterous, but yet she pointed out and...
Do you think that there is a problem when we take two immutably coloured skin groups, white and black, and we tell one group of those people that they are the victims of an oppression that they may yet be to see or experience? I mean, I certainly know with my own kids, it's really difficult to explain to them simple things, let alone complicated things like that. Do you think that we're subjugating people by telling them that they're the victims of oppression, and that we should, as a country, stand up and turn around and go, we are all equal, we're all as British as each other?
Yeah, of course. I never tell my children that they're victims and, you know, the world is against them, and because you're black, you're going to be trod on and stuff like that. Like you said, I'm a businesswoman, and I'm an example to my children that just because I am of colour, I can't achieve great things, and so of them as well. So, no, I will never tell them, you know, the system is against you and things like that. No, you're capable, just like everybody else, to achieve anything that you want to, of course.
And what would you say to someone who turned around and said that this systemic racism, which is spoken about, seems to be so absent that people like Justice Smollett have to invent it?
Yeah, I don't know why he would do something like that.
And the girl in the netball team last week in America who said that she was called the N-word and
Yeah.
they did a thorough investigation if she wasn't. The fake news in the NASCAR rally, in the NASCAR garages. David, do you think we've gone too far with this?
Yeah, I think so. And like you say, some people are just making up stories, and also you get these accusations based on how people feel. I feel someone looked at me in the wrong way, and then therefore that's an indication of systemic racism. But no crime has been committed. No one said anything even that's bad or wrong or illegal. But then there's this sort of narrative built up that feeds into the whole critical race theory, and then you level the accusation that the society is systemically racist. And then you need to do things to change this. I was on the London Assembly for 5 years, and one of the biggest people who wanted to sort of change society, if you like, was Sadiq Khan. He even set up a whole commission for diversity in the public spaces, and he was talking about renaming streets and removing statues and monuments because he needed to tackle this systemic racism. But that just makes the problem worse. I think that just winds people up because there isn't any systemic racism. But when he kind of does that and actually, you get people who want to, ruin history, take away the history of these islands, then actually that gets people annoyed. And then, that just feeds into divisions where there doesn't need to be any, stoking up divisions and tensions.
So, Sophia, what would your positive message be to young kids of all skin colours, hues, sexualities and confusions and happinesses? What would you're a mum,
Yeah.
so what do you say to your kids, and what's your message of hope for our young people who are, right in the mix of this?
Just to accept and just be loving to everybody. I mean, it's just, we are all literally the same person. We all just have different pigmentations of our skin. Like, that's literally it. We're all equal, and let's just take people for how they are, not just because of the shade of their skin.
Oh, man. I think we all agree.
Yeah.
We ended up agreeing.
Yeah.
Sophia, thank you so much. David, thank you so much for joining and having a lovely conversation. I feel really uplifted by it. Thank you. Okay. So, thank you to Heritage Party leader David Curtin and Sophia Strachan. That was really interesting and lovely. CEO of Young Persons Charity, Just As You Are. Where can we find what you do? Where can people...
LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram.
What are your handles? Say it.
Just As You Are.
Okay, Just As You Are.
Just As You Are. Thank you.
Right. So, coming up, MPs at the Conservative conference heckled by protesters. I'm speaking to one of them, Michael Fabricant, about his wigs. No, I'm not. About what happened to him after the break.
Weekday afternoons on GB News, we've got the whole of the UK covered. From 12 to 3, it's GB News Day with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Gloria Di Piero. You'll get the very latest on everything that's been going on across our great nation.
And from 3 till 6, watch out for GB News Live with me, Patrick Christys. I'm not here to mess around. With all the biggest topics and guests, you will always be up to date. GB News Day and GB News Live from 12 p.m.
Only on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
On the Mark Stein Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Stein Show.
Hello. Before the break, I asked you, should we abandon awareness months like Black History Month and just be aware? You've been getting in touch. One viewer says yes, especially when we seem to have our own patron saints day classed as a right wing by some now. Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with that. James says, agree. Who actually gives a damn about awareness weeks anyway? The wokies do. Robert says, the only thing most of the public are aware of is how poor they've become since Brexit. Yeah, you see, Robert, this is exactly right. We have a problem with social mobility in this country, and we also have a long history of trying to deal with social mobility, hence why the Labour Party exists, but has stopped existing and now serves identitarian causes. Unbelievably ridiculous. Anyway, that's rant over. Ryan says, I think we need an awareness month on the clandestine invasion currently ongoing in the English Channel. Yes, well, they've put lots of little barriers up so we can't see the clandestine invasion in the English Channel. But I also think that we need to be careful about using things like the words like clandestine invasion. You know, there are people who genuinely flee here for genuine reasons, and there are other people who flee here for economic reasons, and we should separate those two out very, very clearly, because one, we welcome, and another, we should be more cautious of. One viewer says, they are not history months, they are lecture months. No one wants to be lectured about how awful we were years and years ago. I agree. The moral posturing from the woke and from the hard left has made conversation almost impossible. Right, well, as usual, get in touch. Let's see if I can get this right. Get in touch, Farage at gbnews.uk. Got it right. Or tweet using the hashtag Farage on GB News. Now, the Tory conference is well underway, and the Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, did his speech to delegates this afternoon where he admitted to having a tough day. No, Sherlock. It comes, of course, after a big U-turn early this morning where the government scrapped plans to abolish the 45p income tax rate. I have to say, I think giving 45p of my money to anyone is quite a lot, following widespread criticism. We can now cross live to the party conference in Birmingham, and our political editor, Darren McCaffrey, is there and can sum up everything for us. Hi, Darren, how are you?
Yeah, very good evening, Laurence. Very well indeed. Very odd mood here at Conservative Party conference. As you say, we've had this somewhat rather humiliating U-turn from the Chancellor very early on this morning when they decided to scrap that 45p tax cut that was planned. Why did they do that? Well, the political reality really hit home that simply there were not enough Conservative MPs on board to get this through at Parliament. In the end, the government had not really made the case, not just to the country, but to its own party in favour of that tax cut. And that is why the Chancellor said, frankly, today has been a tough day. As you say, one, underestimation, a very, very, very tough day indeed for Kwasi Kwarteng. We're also learning this evening, interestingly, that actually that fiscal event, another fiscal event where we're going to get the medium-term economic plan for the government that was planned on November 23rd, is now likely to happen this month. That the Chancellor is going to bring forward that statement, again after criticism from the markets, from commentators, from the opposition, that they needed to know what the government's plan was sooner in order to bring some form of stability. But it is interesting here at Party Conference in the sense that, yes, you've got a lot of people who didn't like that tax cut for primarily millionaires, but you've got a lot of people who did quite like it. They liked the message that it sent to businesses. But in somehow, Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng has seemingly annoyed both camps. They've annoyed the former camp because they didn't like the policy, Laurence, but also they've now annoyed the people who didn't want Liz Truss to U-turn on this, who wanted her to stick by her guns. And I think it is now a reminder, if we needed reminding, that actually Liz Truss is not in charge of the Conservative Party. Frankly, the Conservative Party is in charge of Liz Truss.
I've never thought that the Prime Minister was ever in charge of the Conservative Party, but thank you, Darren, our political editor, Darren McCaffrey, there at the Tory Party conference in Birmingham. Now, it may surprise you to hear of protests in Birmingham. the epicentre, of course, of the Conservative Party conference. But there is a case to say these demonstrators coming out in their droves to express their anger at rising energy costs and falling living standards are taking it too far. The Business Secretary, Jacob Rees-Mogg, was heckled and chased yesterday, while a video emerged of Michael Fabricant being shouted abuse at. Take a look at this. We can cross back now to Birmingham to speak to Mr. Fabricant himself. In your tweet, Mr. Fabricant, you said you weren't attacked. What really happened?
Well, I was directed by the police to go into a particular area, which turned out to be a kettled area, where it turns out that actually the main demonstrators were based. And as a consequence, I think they thought that I was going in there to provoke them. I will be honest with you. I'm going to be very naughty now. I've got on my pass a BBC lanyard, because many years ago I used to work for the BBC. I would have had a GB News lanyard, but I don't think you do the lanyard at the moment. So please, can GB News do a lanyard, and I'll do that next time. But the bottom line is that didn't fool anybody. They did recognize me. And unfortunately, I was being shouted at. One guy came up to me and started hooting with a plastic hooter in my ear. And I did ask him to stop doing that because he was walking along with me. And apart from anything, I thought it's not very good for the hearing if you get a hooter in your ear. And he didn't actually stop. So I picked up the hooter and I was going to break it. And then I thought I'd be arrested for criminal damage. So I just chucked it away. And he looked more horrified than anything else. But you know, I wouldn't say it was frightening because everybody was reasonably well behaved. But then, of course, you got the bit which was video, which you've just seen, where a young pipsqueak, who wasn't that big, actually, so I didn't feel very intimidated, was going, well, I won't say what he said because, you know, Ofcom would take us off the air. But it wasn't good. And I don't think the policing was that excellent, actually directing members of Parliament through into the area that all the demonstration was. I might tell you today was even more bizarre because we had a lockdown for about 1 hour, 20 minutes. I was at the Hyatt Hotel, which is the official hotel, and standing outside to get some fresh air while somebody was hurling abuse at us all, can you believe this, with a loudspeaker, and actually, you know, shouting at us while the police stood by and not letting any of us out and not telling us what was going on. So, not the best of days for policing in Birmingham. Over to you, Laurence. I'm talking.
No wonder they recognised you with your glorious golden fleece. Anyway, thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you, Michael Fabricant, Conservative MP for Lichfield. Now, I am joined in the studio by Lord Taylor of Warwick, member of the House of Lords. Lord Taylor, thank you so much for coming to speak to me.
Hello, Laurence.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. Good. I know your father, great actor.
Oh, he is a great actor. I'm all right too.
You're not bad.
Back in the day. So what do you make of this U-turn? Have they shot themselves in both feet?
I think the mood of the conference is don't panic. And
not a good mood.
It's either don't panic or Titanic. It'll be one or the other. There was a great character, a comedy character, Lance Corporal Jones in Dad's Army. He used to say, don't panic, Mr. Mannering. And I think that's the mood of the conference. I agreed with the general thrust of let's grow the economy. But there's there's a saying, old keys don't open new doors. And what they're trying to do is shoehorn this thing through without taking the party and the country with them.
What is this thing?
Well, this thing is about the fact that the economy has been stagnant for several years, and Kwasi and Liz Truss are trying to revive the economy. but they're not doing it in a way that brings people with them. You can't just force people into change. You need to explain the change and bring them with you. And it's the communications, the optics. I agree with this whole thing about, capping the energy bills, obviously, reducing the national insurance, but then to bring in reducing tax for millionaires at the same time, and then removing the bonuses for bankers. I mean, that was bonkers, frankly.
But to be fair, on a purely philosophical level, and this is just me looking at life, taking 45% of anybody's income, to me, seems like quite a sizable amount. Taking 50%, 40% is quite a sizable amount. Is there an argument to be said that this whole thing has been hijacked by a certain group in the media to criticise the Tories, say, oh, well, look, it's tax savings for the rich, but the rich are already paying a huge amount of tax.
I understand that, but, being right isn't always enough. You do need to explain why you're doing something. And it spooked the markets. The fact that Kwasi didn't consult the OBR, he sacked the main official at the Treasury on day one, and the markets are thinking, what is he doing? You need to bring people along with you. It's about trust and confidence.
Do you think that that the Tories can move on from this, or is this completely hamstrung Truss's new regime?
They've been in power for 12 years, and there comes a time...
But she's been in power for 12 minutes.
Yeah, but she was a minister for several years. She's part of... It's not really new, it's a continuation. And some people are almost having buyer's remorse. Should we bring Boris back? I think that would be a mistake. Now, what they need to do is explain what the plan is. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And they haven't explained the plan.
It seems to me that the plan is to go, we're about to face a winter of of absolute discontent with energy bills, fortunately now captured, capped at the cost of £150 billion to the economy. That seems like a good spend. But also this idea that the Conservative government, who should lead on principle, really, and on the principles of conservatism, that they are able to change fiscal policy on the back of a few days of bad headlines, seems to me a Conservative government which isn't being led on principle by, we had years of Boris Johnson going, well, you must all knock down while getting drunk. And now we're looking for a Conservative leader who isn't in the thrall of CCHQ, and we seem to have one that is.
It's the optics. It looks bad. It makes it look as if you're punishing the poor and looking after the rich. Also, it was not going to get through the parliamentary party. It would have to go through Parliament. There's no way that would have been voted through to favour the rich, and they realised that. In many ways, it was inexperience. I just hope it's not kamikaze Kwasi.
Quasi, I love it. So how did the Conservatives restore confidence in themselves?
By talking to the country, not talking at the country, explaining that we are in a mess. They understand that life is difficult for many, many people, that energy cap on the bills was great, but, let's look after the poor who can't help themselves. It's not their fault that the price of energy has gone up. Look after the whole nation, not just the guys in the city.
And just as that sounds very sound to me. And just as a final question, what are your thoughts on Black History Month?
I'm more in favour of Black Future, because Black History Month is almost saying, right, for the month of October, we're going to, think about black people, and then in November we forget them. It's part of our whole history. My father was from Jamaica. He fought for Britain in the Second World War. For Britain, part of our history. But I just think that, Black Lives Matter, it's a business. It's political.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
It is. It's I'm not a victim. I'm a victim.
No, you're not. You're a lord.
Exactly. And when I came into the House of Lords, I was the only black lord out of 1,800. And on my second day in the House of Lords, one of the elderly viscounts asked me to get him a gin and tonic because he thought I was the waiter. Now, I could have responded in anger and so forth, but you know what? We became great friends. Yeah, that's the way. Build bridges, not walls.
Black Future Month, ladies and gentlemen. What a good idea. Table the motion.
Absolutely.
Please, today. Black Future Month. Thank you. That's really got me. Lord Taylor of Warwick, member of the House of Lords. My What the Fox moment tonight is the inspirational story of Captain Charles Vivian Howard, one of the last surviving links to the Great Escape, has died aged 102. He was a Royal Navy pilot and became a prisoner of war at the camp made famous by the 1963 film The Great Escape. Tasked with the important responsibility of distracting the guards using his fluent German, he helped 76 men escape via secret tunnels, but Vivian remained at the camp for 2.5 more years. His son spoke to our reporter Ellie Costello about his father's life.
Vivian Howard's life was nothing short of remarkable. When war broke out in 1939, 19-year-old Vivian volunteered to join the Royal Navy as a pilot. In 1941, his plane was shot down. He was captured and held at the German Stalag Luft 3 camp in modern-day Poland.
I have had the pleasure of knowing quite a number of British...
The camp was made famous as the location of the Great Escape.
There were 3 tunnels that were called Tom, Dick and Harry. The tunnel called Tom started in Dad's hut, which was the Polish hut. He elected to go in with the Poles and he learned Polish. And then they discovered that one, but there were 2 others. Or 76, I think it was, escaped. His job in that was to, because he was fluent in German, was to distract the guards and converse with them. But he wasn't one of the escapees, luckily, because Hitler had 50 of them executed. You know, he just got on with things at the time. They were all in it together. I mean, the film The Great Escape was not entirely accurate. There were no Americans involved in it.
What are you doing over here by the wire? Well, like I told Max here, I was trying to get my gun.
They felt it was their duty to escape, to take up the time of Germans, the enemy.
Towards the war's end, Vivian survived the death marches when prison camps in eastern Germany were emptied as the Red Army advanced.
Dad told me it was a chance remark from a Polish colleague, which probably saved his life. They said, look, when you're on a march like this, never take your boots off, because your feet will swell and you never get them back on again. And if you couldn't walk or keep up, they would shoot you. So they said, loosen them, but don't take them off. And that probably saved his life.
Vivian ended up in a camp in Germany, which was liberated when the war ended. He went on to have 3 children with his wife, Bernadette, and died at the age of 102 on the 14th of September 2022.
He was a friend and a supporter. He taught me how to do cryptic crosswords, and we used to do a lot of that together, and that was great fun. I used to really enjoy that. So a supportive and kind man who taught me a lot. And I think it was, you know, a good life well lived. So he had a good life, and I remember the good times.
Captain Charles Vivian Howard will be remembered for his remarkable life and his great sacrifice for freedom. Ellie Costello, GB News.
What a life. And we should drink to him, and we will. Coming up, the GB News tavern doors are open and we will be speaking to an up-and-coming star of the bare-knuckle fighting scene, Connor Tierney.
Weekday afternoons on GB News, we've got the whole of the UK covered. From 12 to 3, it's GB News Day with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Gloria Di Piero. You'll get the very latest on everything that's been going on across our great nation.
And from 3 till 6, watch out for GB News Live with me, Patrick Christys. I'm not here to mess around. With all the biggest topics and guests, you will always be up to date. GB News Day and GB News Live from 12 p.m.
Only on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know. We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
The GB News Tavern is open, but my pint has not arrived. I am waiting for it. I am joined tonight by the wonderful Connor Tierney, quantity surveyor by day and bare-knuckle fighter by night. So, Connor, first of all, why do you want to ruin such a beautiful face? That's not me coming on to you, by the way.
Well, to be fair, I've had 8 bare-knuckle fights and it's still beautiful. So that just says to me, should I carry on ruining everyone else's face while I keep myself?
But isn't the first rule of Fight Club that you're not allowed to talk about Fight Club?
That is the first rule of Fight Club.
What's the second rule of Fight Club?
To be fair, there is no rule of Fight Club in mine. For me, it's getting the attention that I want and I deserve, in my opinion. I've been boxing for such a long time. As a kid, 48 amateur fights I had with gloves. And then going into bare knuckle because it was like, not really mainstream, but going on to TV, and that's all I wanted to do was get on TV and have a bit of fame, you know what I mean? And they say you get, is it 15 minutes of fame in your life? And I've surpassed that now, so I guess I'm on my way to stardom, and I really.
Talk me through the difference, because I was interested, I was reading about it, and the difference between landing a punch on someone's face with whatever's covered to protect.
Yeah,
it's
nothing to protect it. You're wrapped up to the about an inch before the knuckles, and that's to protect your wrist and metacarpal bones. Even though obviously, if you look there, it doesn't
seem to work. There's some major
that
scarring.
Just depends on how hard you're hitting, really. To be fair, don't it?
But what's the science on a big boxing glove versus a wrapped up fist when it comes to what you're going to do to someone's head? Because there's a million people that would go, we need to ban all forms of fighting, full stop.
Well, this is the thing. Doctors, special consultants and stuff in hospitals, people to do with brains and head trauma will instantly say that boxing, bare knuckle, it's barbaric. It's no good for the brain. It's just as good as a football when your header in a leather ball, isn't it? Coming full power at you, basically. But in my opinion, with bare knuckle, is safer than glove boxing because glove boxing, right? You've got with a fist, it's a direct impact on the bone. The bone's hitting the skull, impact. And it's an instant clear knockout. But believe it or not, there's no concussion. And I've had concussion.
Why is there no concussion?
Because the brain, obviously, there's fluid around the brain, and concussion comes when the brain is jolted or wobbled.
Yeah.
Especially when you're getting hit at the back of the equilibrium. So obviously, when you're getting hit bare knuckle, the impact's solid. It's like a hammer, like a metal hammer hitting, like a metal beam.
Doesn't sound fun.
It doesn't sound fun, no. But if you imagine the effects of getting hit once and getting knocked out compared to getting hit, say, 12 rounds in a world title fight, continuously with 8-ounce gloves, some of these are, padding your hands so you can hit as hard as you want for as long as you want boxing. That's what causes concussion.
Yeah, because it's that sort of... I remember when I did boxing, I'm not very good at it, as you can possibly tell by my guns, but they were always like punch through the head.
Yeah.
With the boxing glove, like aim for the back of the head. Well, and what you're doing is you're literally trying to take someone down.
Yeah.
Oh, look. Oh. Well, thank you, Barbara.
Oh, right, OK. Cheers.
We are allowed to acknowledge it.
It is a point of vodka, I think so.
It is. Anyway, go back. So you've got a bare fist.
Yeah.
You've got a big wrapped up fist, Rocky style. Punch. Yeah. That is going to do more damage. Is that what the science says?
So the science is, if you stand in a ring, say you give someone 5 minutes of punching them as hard as you can for as long as you want, with no damage to your hands, because your hands are wrapped and gloved. But the thing is, the spread of the blow is ridiculous. If you think an inch, so my fist there diameter is probably about 4.5 inches. If 4.5 inches hitting your face, it's a direct impact that's going to either knock you out or it's just going to daze you, stun you, but it's not going to do the effects of what a 4-inch glove, a 4-inch hand gone into a glove where it spreads the blow with another 3 inches either side. You're giving yourself 10 inches there wide and you're just spreading the blow. And it's like what I always say, if you get a wooden beam and a rubber mallet and you hit a wooden beam, it will spread the blow across the beam. But when you hit with a direct, like a metal hammer, like a claw hammer on a metal surface, it's a direct impact. And the thing is, as barbaric as it sounds with bare knuckle, there's a lot of nasty cuts and obviously broken faces and hands, but the short-term injuries, long-term injuries.
Are the fights shorter?
Yeah, they are. The 2-minute rounds, they're 5 rounds. The company's Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship now. They've come over from America. They've introduced this huge event. We've just recently put on the biggest bare knuckle event in history, Wembley Arena, where I co-headlined with MMA star Michael Venom Page. The pair of us headlined and co-headlined the fight, and it's become a massive success. But a lot of people have watched it and thought, this is more entertaining than glove boxing.
Well, it's more real.
Yeah, it's real.
So this is like you've got your sort of GCSEs are glove boxing.
Yeah.
A-levels are UFC.
Yeah.
And your degree in how hard you can possibly be in life is gloves off.
Yeah.
Gloves off, that's what you're saying.
It's gloves off, and it's not even wrapping over the knuckle either, to be fair.
But look, I am looking at your knuckles, mate, and to be fair, I'm worried about what happens in your 70s.
Well, to be fair, it's the hands are never on show. As long as the face is still pretty, the hands can be as mangled as they want.
What's the most painful thing that's happened to you?
I have been knocked out. I've been knocked out in 36 seconds. It wasn't painful because I didn't remember it.
Yeah.
But when I got up, I think the painful part was accepting the loss more than anything. And that came with, me being low and not wanting to get out of bed for a week or two, because this is a big thing for me. Passionately, I think I'm one of the best bare knuckle fighters on the planet. So
should boys be encouraged in their strength? And girls?
No. Boys and girls are welcome to do exactly what they want. My son, I've got a son, he's 6 years of age. I don't want him to box. Do you know what I mean? If he wants to box, he can box. He says me he wants to, but I won't force him to go to the gym. I don't think it's a gender thing where we should be pushing the males into this combat sports and that. It all depends. It's down to you. And it's a gift as well. You need to be talented. I always had the talent. I had the knack. You see, I've seen kids get trained in the gym throughout my career who've just never had it. Just never had the talent to go forward and do anything special in their career. So, like I say, it's anything like footballers, it takes them natural talents to come through, and boxing's exactly the same.
And bare knuckle boxing is the new version of it, and I can also testify to the fact that boys and girls are better and worse at it, because my niece is killer with a pair of gloves
to be fair, I'll be honest with you now, especially Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, they have a lot of female fights. The likes of Paige Van Zandt and stuff are all involved in it now. And
should a man be able to fight a woman?
Do you know what? I've got to watch what I say because of gender equality and stuff. Well, no, let's be honest, no. No, because physically, when you look at calories...
Punch a woman, man, especially without...
I'm not making it like...
No, I'm just asking you a simple question.
Yeah, no...
Should a man and a woman be able to go head-to-head?
No, of course not.
I mean, I'd lose myself.
I suppose if a woman wanted to change her gender and wanted to be a man...
What's gender?
Well, whatever they say nowadays. If she wanted to... Say, if she wanted to have a
she wanted to go... Right,
she wanted to go into... And say... And identify as a man. And she wanted to go into fighting. And say she was, injecting hormones in the body and developing the characteristics of a male.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe. But still not fair.
Really? What about you? So we've got no gloves on. You walk into a ring. I can understand why you're on the fence about it a bit, because you've got Fallon Fox and all that stuff in UFC, and I get it. But to put a woman in the most extreme combat sport there is
in the world,
ever.
Yeah.
You're really going to have to get a position on that one, my friend. I mean, you are. Because you don't want to... I mean, just answer me this, honestly. They walk you into the ring and they say, by the way, this is Barry.
Yeah.
Used to be Bella.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you throw a punch at her? Him? They?
Yeah, if she looked like a bloke, yeah, I would. If I'm getting paid to do it, then I'll do it, won't I? So.
Really?
But yeah, of course, because, you know, if she volunteered to the
talent... But you've got weight classes in boxing, right? You've got welterweight, lightweight. She's the same weight, then fine.
Yeah, because it's a weight class, isn't it? I'm 165 £, which is 74 kilo. So if she stepped in at 74 kilo and she was like you said, Bella, that went to Barry, you know, had all the physique, did the change, you know, then at the end of the day, it's a legitimate contest in my eyes. So.
Take him down, knock him out. Third rule of Fight Club, if she's called Bella, but she's now called Barry, you can knock her out. Cheers, bro.
Cheers, mate. Thank
Lovely
you.
to meet you.
And you.
Right, I'm not going to bare knuckle box anyone. Just a few minutes left for me to answer some of your questions from home in Outfox the Fox. Jamie asks, will you be running for London Mayor again? Jamie, I am the London Mayor. The whole thing was a stitch-up. Mike asks, is it fair that the funding and the pupil-to-teacher ratio at Eton is far superior to that of state schools? I literally know nothing about that. Bradley asks, do you think the Conservative brand is damaged? Is it time for a rebrand, a new name and a total new start? I think Bradley, I'd say the Conservative Party is basically like a giant amoeba. All it does is want to be in power, so it'll adopt any philosophy it can in order to maintain power, because people who want to be politicians want to be in power over other people, which I think we should be massively distrustful from anyway. Laura asks, will the problem of the illegal migrants crossing the English Channel ever be sorted out? I mean, you could just go out 11 miles into the Channel and push them back towards France. I don't know. But we've got to accept legitimate refugees in this country and not encourage economic migrants. But having said that, with our total fertility rate as it is, we're in trouble as we are. Right, David asks, is Putin indestructible? No, he's not, actually. I had a friend of mine on the phone the other day who said that her friend was being called up, was being drafted to fight in Putin's army, and his father was worth £300 million. So if he's doing that, then we're done. Anyway, it's too much time for my waffling. It's time to move on to Mark Stein, the hero of this world. Mark, what do you have for us?
I'm still reeling at your answer to that question on education. I have absolutely no knowledge on that subject. That's the one thing you're not supposed to say on television, Laurence. It gives the whole game away. Don't do that again. The Amalgamated Union of Television Presenters will have words with him in the back alley. They'll be getting out the tower iron. Cracking show, Laurence. Great stuff. We're going to try and keep it going for the next hour. David Starkey and Lois Perry have been at the Tory conference. Natalie Winters is at the all-you-can-eat insect buffet. And Claire Hibbs has been clobbered by the vaccine and can't get the government to fess up. All that and more coming up right after the all-important weather.
I'm Alex Deakin with your latest weather update. Tomorrow, wet weather will be spreading steadily southwards, but across the far southeast and East Anglia, it'll be another dry and fairly warm day for October thanks to this area of high pressure, but it is shrinking away, being pushed out of the way by weather fronts and low pressure systems, isobars squeezing together, telling us the winds are picking up. These weather fronts bringing more rain to western Scotland overnight, where I'm Alex Deakin with your latest weather update. Tomorrow, wet weather will be spreading steadily southwards, but across the far southeast and East Anglia, it'll be another dry and fairly warm day for October thanks to this area of high pressure, but it is shrinking away, being pushed out of the way by weather fronts and low pressure systems, isobars squeezing together, telling us the winds are picking up. These weather fronts bringing more rain to western Scotland overnight, where
Coming up on Dan Woodson tonight, when did defending free speech become a hate crime? Catherine Burblesing joins me to discuss her ordeal and what can be done to fight cancel culture in the classroom. Plus, how did Camilla transform herself from one of the country's most hated women to Queen Consort? And was Meghan Markle foolhardy to ignore her advice on how to survive the royal family? Biographer Angela Levin discusses the revelations from her tell-all book, Live. And as ever, there's opinion galore from Neil Oliver, comedian Jim Davidson, and my superstar panel, Carol Malone, Sam Dowler, and Belinda DeLucy. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
Weekday afternoons on GB News, we've got the whole of the UK covered. From 12 to 3, it's GB Newsday with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Gloria Di Piero. You'll get the very latest on everything that's been going on across our great nation.
And from 3 till 6, watch out for GB News Live with me, Patrick Christys. I'm not here to mess around. With all the biggest topics and guests, you will always be up to date. GB Newsday and GB News Live from 12 p.m.
Only on GB News.
The